He achieved everything, except who he wanted by his side when he won. He made his first billion before turning 50. Magazine covers said Nathan Bell was the archetype of American success, entrepreneur, visionary, relentless. But what they didn't show was what he left behind with each new award, each round of investment, each plane that took off, always without warning. At home, Elena, his wife for almost 2 decades, held everything together on her own. The children grew up. They learned to walk, to talk, to dream, and Nathan learned to multiply. He said it was for them, but he never asked if they were willing to pay that price with him. On the day he closed the biggest deal of his life, he was in Dubai. On the same day, his youngest daughter turned 10. She blew out the candles with an expression that no one noticed. At the party, one absence. In the bank account, one more zero. If you've ever had to choose between success and presence, tell me, what was the most expensive achievement of your life? The house where Elena lived with her children was quiet, but not in a cozy way. It was the kind of silence that sounds like absence, like an answer never given, like recycled excuses in the form of expensive gifts. Nathan sent flowers, toys, cards with phrases written by his secretary. He said he was present as best he could. But love, Elena knew, cannot be delivered by express mail. The eldest son, Lucas, began to respond with a coldness that Nathan did not recognize. Their daughter Zoe began to draw a family without a father, and Elena began to say goodbye inside. On their wedding anniversary, Nathan bought a penthouse in New York. It was the largest unit in the building with a panoramic view of Central Park. But Elena didn't want a view. She wanted eyes, eyes that saw her as someone alive, not as part of a display window. You don't realize it, Nathan, but we're losing you. And worse, you're making us happy that we're no longer waiting for you. She said this in a low voice. No tears, no drama. And that's when Nathan understood. His family didn't hate him. They had just learned to live without him. And that was much crueler than abandonment. Nathan didn't know what to do with that kind of loss, because there was no negotiation contract or reversal clause. It was the first time he had faced a no that he couldn't buy. He tried to make up for it. He changed his schedule. He came back from trips earlier than planned. He bought tickets to children's plays, tried to make breakfast, sent messages with emojis. But the truth was simple. He was too late. Zoe no longer asked questions about her father. Lucas called him by his first name in a neutral and polite tone. And Elena just thanked him. No smile, no return. Nathan felt like he had become a guest in his own family. Someone who was welcome, but expendable. One cold night he sat alone on the huge rooftop balcony looking down at the park below. He tried to remember the exact moment when he stopped being a husband, a father, a presence. But he couldn't. Because the truth is, it wasn't a moment. It was a process. Invisible, silent, constant, like ice forming on the inside of a window. No one destroys a family with a single choice. But many small absences build a wall that no one can climb over later. That day, for the first time in years, Nathan cried, but no one saw. After that night on the balcony, Nathan made a decision. He would try to start over, not with gifts, not with expensive dinners, but with something he had almost forgotten how to do, real presence. He started coming home earlier, picking Zoe up from school, calling Lucas to talk even when the boy responded with silence. He scheduled a family therapy session. Elena agreed. But he made it clear, it's not about saving the marriage, it's about understanding what can still be saved as parents. And so Nathan entered a territory where he was neither CEO nor investor. He was just a man trying to regain the right to be called father. In the first few meetings, he talked too much. He tried to explain himself, to justify himself, to recount the versions of what he believed he was doing right. Until Elena interrupted him in a calm tone. You don't have to tell us everything you did. We just want to know if you still know how to listen. That sentence dismantled what pride Nathan had left. In the next session, he remained silent. And for the first time, he listened to Lucas describe what it was like to look at the audience at graduation and see only his mother. Or Zoe telling him that she drew her father with a blank face because she couldn't remember his features. There was no judgment, just observation. And Nathan understood. Rebuilding is not about going back to the way things were. It's about accepting that some parts are gone, but others can still flourish. if you have the courage to stay. Nathan began turning down meetings, losing contracts, saying no to opportunities that had previously seemed sacred. His partners were baffled. The market was confused. But for the first time, he didn't feel empty when he closed a day with an empty schedule. He started taking Zoe to the park on Saturdays, and every evening he tried to break Lucas's silence with small talk about music, sports, or the simple fact of existing. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but there was something new, intentional presence. Elena watched from a distance. She wasn't naive. She knew that wounds don't heal with flowers, but there was respect in the effort, and she valued that. One night, Zoe asked to sleep in her father's bed. It was simple, but for Nathan, it was like winning a prize that no Forbes list could ever measure. Later, Lucas called him Dad for the first time in years, without looking him in the eye, without ceremony. But it was enough. He understood then that there are riches that only appear when you stop chasing what the world wants and start taking care of what you might lose at home. Nathan didn't know how much time he had, but he knew he didn't want to count money anymore. He wanted to count family dinners, phrases spoken over coffee, comfortable silences. The fortune was still there, but now he was the one who no longer wanted to pay with his soul. Years passed and Nathan didn't get everything back, but he did get something even rarer: emotional dignity. He and Elena didn't get back together as a couple, but they became friends, confidants, parents who share responsibility with balance and respect. Zoe grew up with enough good memories not to hold any grudges. Lucas, now an adult, chose to study psychology. He said he wanted to understand people's silence. Nathan didn't ask any more questions. He just smiled, his eyes misty. His fortune remained intact, but the way he dealt with it changed completely. He created a foundation in his mother's name. He made anonymous donations. He renovated libraries in forgotten neighborhoods. And above all, he never again allowed a signature to be worth more than a glance. Last Christmas, he prepared dinner alone. He set the table carefully, and when Zoe arrived, she noticed something curious. "Dad, why are there 6 places? There are only 4 of us." Nathan laughed, adjusted the napkin, and replied, "It's to remember who we almost lost, and who is still here." Some achievements are not trophies. They are moments redeemed, and hearts that decide to stay. That Christmas wasn't perfect, but it was real, and for the first time, Nathan felt he was exactly where he should be, without having to pay anything for it. Nathan no longer appears on magazine covers. He is no longer the most talked about name among big investors, but he has become a reference in something he never thought would matter so much: humanity. He lives in a smaller house with windows that don't show the city, but let the sun in. The phone rings less often, and that for him is a relief. He has learned to love the silence that comes not from absence, but from peace. One morning, while organizing old papers, he found an old statement from when he made his first billion. He smiled, not with pride, but with surprise. That now seemed like another life, another man's. He picked up a pen and wrote on the back of that statement, "That was the highest number in my account. But today, it's at breakfast with my children that I feel richest." He folded the paper. He put it in a box, and he went back to the kitchen. Zoe was making pancakes. Lucas was reading the newspaper in silence. Elena was drinking coffee, wearing slippers and smiling lightly, and Nathan sat down at the table without haste. In the end, he didn't leave an empire. He left stories, laughter, and someone to remember his name with love. If you had to choose today between more time or more money, which would you choose, and why?